I often say to my agents, just be honest of what you're actually meeting for.
And that is acceptable as well.
That is super acceptable. And at the end of the day, you can always just say, well, if you have any friends or families that are interested or like want to know more about real estate, I am so happy to be of service to them because, well, you're marketing yourself.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to In the House podcast. I'm your co-host, Tony Singh.
And I'm the fun co-host, Jenny Woon.
Anyhow, today's topic is maximizing your networking to increase your net worth.
I meant to say zen, not fun. Sorry.
No, you are fun. I think I'm more fun.
Okay.
Well, that'll be a challenge for another day. Okay, so networking, such a fun topic. Jenny, in your opinion, why is networking so important, and how can you truly utilize networking to increase your net worth?
I believe networking is really important because if I was to give some advice to when I first started in the business, which was around 20, 21 years old, it would be
because we don't know your age.
It would be to refine and to the database is the gold mine. It feeds the income in your business. And so if I was to start over again, I would absolutely, and this is what I tell all the agents that are signing up and who are new agents at my office, is to transferring everybody from your phone into a proper CRM.
Absolutely. Such important advice.
Setting up the CRM and knowing how to use it is a whole different level of a conversation, which we've had many episodes on.
Yep.
However, that is the number one thing, is the networking. Increasing your networking increases your net worth.
100%. And to be honest, I look at networking different now than when I first started in real estate.
How so?
Honestly, so Jenny never believed this before. I think you kind of do now. I actually am an introvert. You can't tell because we do the podcast together. You're an introvert too.
Yes.
You are to a certain degree, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I first started in real estate, I found networking events really, really exhausting. I liked my own personal time. I like one-on-one. I found it completely overwhelming to be in like a larger group of people. And, you don't know them. It's like a friend you haven't met yet, but I just found it exhausting. And so now my take on this, and this is something that we've been talking about in our office as well, is networking is an amazing tool to generate more business with aligned clients and referral partners. And I think that slight shift in mindset is something so essential to maximize your impact. So when done strategically, even the most introverted person can successfully network and maximize their impact. So for today, we have some top tips on maximizing your networking to maximize your profits. Jenny, do you want to start with the first few tips that we have here?
Sure, yeah. So focus on the learning. And when you're focusing on the learning, to me, what you have to understand what it takes to actually network, right? So that means not complaining, not condemning, not criticizing.
For sure.
Right. So that's just the basic part of it, is getting into the framework and the mindset of the component of leading up to the networking, is getting to learn more about people, exploring how different and unique people are, how the idea that maybe other people will have a difference of an opinion. And so being prepared, preparing your mindset for the engagement of networking.
For sure. That's a great point. And being like non-judgmental.
Non-judgmental, no criticizing, and being inviting and actively listening. So those are some of the tools to kind of prepare you entering into a big room, or whether it's going to be a small conference, or whether it's going to be a one-on-one interaction.
Okay, that's a really good tip for the mindset. The next point that we have here is knowing your own worth and thinking broadly about your own offerings. Why is this important? Well, it's important to realize this and know what to say because you're going to identify common interests with these new people that you're meeting. And it's just easier to do that when you know your own worth and you know what value you bring to the table. So, for example, to do this, you could think, okay, well, obviously, who is your ideal client? Perhaps the question would be, are there any charitable causes that are close to your heart or things that you would like to see in the world? And finally, you could also, I don't know, another one would be, what do you want to create? That's an interesting conversation starter.
What do you want to create? Like what kind of
like either in your business? Yeah, for sure. Because only then, when you know the answers to those questions, can you see if you're aligned with these potential, business partners, referral partners. You might do B2B business with them directly, or it might just be a future conversation. So you never know where you're going to land up.
Yes. Thirdly, so be of service to others. And what this means is when someone is explaining their story or providing their opinion or anything to that realm about them sharing their life is not only active listening, but really be curious about how they felt in that moment. How does that affect their life? Rather than jumping in right away to giving an example of what happened in your life.
For sure.
Because right away, what automatically happens, and it happens to me all the time as well, is that you want to share your side of the story. You want to share your side of the opinion. And you always often cut somebody off by saying, well, this is what happened to me. Or you don't really allow the person to fully finish their side. And if you actually were able to fully engage into what they're trying to explain to you, how they also felt in those moments, you want to be able to encourage others to like talk a little bit more, be more curious about exactly how it affected their life, and more than anything, just be more interested in them rather than being selfishly talking about yourself.
I agree. And that creates more in-depth conversation. I just realized something as you were explaining this. One of the other reasons I never loved networking events, especially when I first started in real estate, was because you and I don't know if this is similar for you, so let me know. I don't love surface level conversations.
1000%.
I prefer going deeper because surface is surface. Sure, there's a time and a place for it, maybe to see if there's alignment. But I like to get to the heart of it. Do you find, that that's the same for you in some of these networking situations?
Yeah. So I regularly go to retreats on my own, and I meet fantastic people on the same retreats where we have very common goals, or we go in for a very specific reason. And these people can come from all walks of like all other countries, from Norway to like Spain, Dubai, the States. And we often come together very, very grounded, and we actually never talk about what we do for work. In fact, I probably have to only find out once we start following each other through Instagram. But we actually never ask, what do you do for work? And that's a very common, actually question number 1 or question number 5, somewhere around there, when you're meeting somebody in Canada, like in your city. So when I go on vacation, we talk about, what are you here for? What are you here to discover about yourself?
Purpose, intention.
It does come down to like your soul, like about like traumas that have happened in your life, or like what do you want to gain out of the program or out of the retreat that you're in. So the surface level questions, I often find it's like you kind of have to get that out of the way, like when I'm back in town. To really get to know somebody.
You can't ask the question you really want.
Because, it's sensitive, and it's a small city. I have to say it's a small city. So sometimes things kind of can
But think about, you said something really important that I didn't even realize right now until I was like literally going through it. It's true in North American culture. We're going to just digress for a second, then we'll hop back on track. But in North American culture, it is very common to ask that question, what do you do? And honestly, from a heart-centered standpoint, what you do is not who you are. It's just what you do. So I wonder why we place such emphasis on that question.
It's a status thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But I want to get away from that.
Usually we
oh my goodness,
equalize what you do,
yes,
with how much you make, with
material things,
right? And then it kind of bounds you to like, what's the self-worth? Like what is this relationship worth to me?
And that's why I hate getting that question when I'm at networking events. Anyhow, interesting discovery.
So how about this?
Yeah.
Let's work on, you and me, asking something else other than what do you do for work? Because here's the thing.
Okay, let's do it.
Tony and I think you agree, part of being a realtor is finding out what they do, because they have to qualify to buy a home. If you're working part-time and you're like trying to get approved for an X amount of dollar of a home, you know very well you're not going to work with that client.
Well, they're not going to be able to purchase something.
They may have difficulty purchasing. Yeah. Maybe they have other means. They borrow money.
But that's discovered on the discovery call.
Through the discovery call. But that's often a very, like, one of the top 1 to 5 questions that you would ask, right? So let's come up with a question where it's more engaging and offers more curiosity.
Let's do a run through right now.
Okay.
Let's pretend we don't know each other. Hey,
hi,
Jenny. Are you gonna? I was gonna ask what. Do you want to go first? Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Hey, Jenny.
Hi.
My name's Tony.
Hi, Tony.
Hey. I have a question.
Okay.
What are you up to in life? Where do you think we go after we die? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, if you want to get that deep, no, that's a really good question.
I'm just curious though, right? Like, we don't do that.
What are you up to? That's a very good question.
Or what's the purpose of life?
Yeah. And you know the question, how are you doing? And some people
hate
say,
that question.
I'm just doing good. How do we change that question around to actually get someone to speak more about how they're actually doing?
Hey, Jenny.
Yeah.
You guys know I love role playing. I haven't spoken to you in a while. What has been going on for you in 2022 since we're now in 2023 or something like that? Not creepily like that, guys, but I don't know, because then it's just not a yes or no answer, or like I'm good, I'm not good. And let's be honest, in today's society, it's sometimes considered inappropriate, right, to share how you're actually feeling.
Right.
So if you're not doing well, social courtesy states with these social mores that you wouldn't say, oh, well, not well necessarily, like someone just passed away or whatever. We just don't really allow for that. Right. So what question would you ask? How would you frame it?
No, I think you asked me the way I would ask.
Because it would tell me more about like what's been going on for you.
Yeah, what's been going on? What have you been working on? What are you most excited about? What are you most excited about? You know, and I know, you know, sometimes you may be going through grieving or breakups or divorce or maybe your day went bad. And I think the most important thing is coming in with a lot of softness and compassion. So when you can approach it with a very non-judgmental, or you're forcing an answer right away, it's more you're just like there to listen, then that person may be more perhaps be willing to be more vulnerable.
Yeah, and open up. So friends that are listening, this is so perfect because we did segue a bit, but I enjoyed this conversation so much more. And I would challenge ourselves. You know how we go to a lot of networking events? Let's try this year to be the ones who are asking these more in-depth questions, so that we're not having surface level conversations.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Good challenge.
That's a good challenge. But back to our roadmap here. Networking, how to maximize that. So we briefly touched on earlier, it was said during a point, we talked about ideal client avatar and service. So identifying what that is for you so that when people ask you, if it's a strict business networking event, there are some business events where they want to know what it is that you do. And in order for them to help you and for you to help them, it would be important, I guess, for you to have this clarified beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the next thing that we were talking about so much better. So the next point, Jenny.
Okay, so next point is reaffirm what's important to you and create a measurable intention before an event. So before the event is happening, what is your goal? Is your goal to meet 5 new people that you didn't? You know what's one of the best things that most presenters will do is that you may come with like a group of 3 or maybe another person to the group or to the event, or maybe come with a group of like 3 or 4 people, and you always sit together. So one of the things,
separately?
You can sit together, but a good presenter will get you to introduce yourself to somebody that you don't know.
Sure.
So maybe you take a little bit of a break. And Deb did this during her profit business planning session, she made us actually in the middle of the, in like somewhere in the middle of the day, she made us like switch seats.
Yeah.
Remember
it was
that?
great because it changed the energy for sure.
Yeah. And then at the other retreat that I was in December, we had to go across the room and meet somebody else.
It's
that we didn't know.
important to do that.
And we were in a week, like there was maybe about 40 people in that retreat. So you kind of get accustomed to like talking to the same kind of people because you built a connection with them when you first arrive. So they made us like go across the room. The other thing is as well, I did a dance liberation.
What is this?
So we actually covered our eyes with a bandana, and through like maybe 3 or 4 songs, we actually picked a partner before we put the bandana on.
Okay.
And that person, we were supposed to trust them that we wouldn't
one
run.
person had the bandana on
so
and
we
the
were
other person
partnered up.
didn't.
Sorry,
Got
let me
it.
go back. We had to partner up, and that partner who didn't have the bandana had to just lightly touch so that we wouldn't bump into somebody else.
I just had
as
a
we were
crazy
dancing.
visual in my head.
What?
Because before you had said that there was someone looking after you to make sure you don't hit people, I just pictured a whole bunch of people with bandanas on bumping into each other.
No. So there is one person without a bandana, and the other person was with a bandana. We call it dance liberation.
Love it.
And you're dancing like no one's looking, and because we can't see anything.
That's authentic.
So through 3 or 4 dances, we were just like going crazy, going at it, and we're trusting the person who we've never met before or was in that part of that retreat who we've never talked to make sure that we wouldn't cross the line and bump into somebody else. And that was a super fun moment. I think there were so many laughs. And to me, like, that like as soon as I put taken off that bandana, we were going on the floor to just do our breathing exercise, and the connection I had with the person that was guiding me there was just so much more trust.
Yeah,
there was so much more alignment.
Was this at the most recent retreat that you went to?
Yes.
Okay, This sounds so fun.
Yeah. And that was like, that was 1 or 2 sessions. But, and then we exchanged, information after that. And without that, I probably would have kept my little group that I met at the very beginning of the retreat. Right. So yeah, that forged a really meaningful connection. But I would say, to go back to the topic here is, go in knowing that you can be your authentic self. So you don't need to put on a face. You don't need be in your most comfortable clothes, be yourself. And you don't need to like force anything, right? To who you are, because then that friendship can build into something more beautiful because you're just yourself.
Yeah, I would agree. That's amazing advice. Another thing that can help you maximize your networking event is the mindset of being a super connector, and finding a higher purpose. What does that mean, though? It's something that's not maybe super tangible, but it is. So part of this would be to focus on the actual connection. And Jenny, you said this so perfectly earlier, which was the high emotional intelligence listening, right? Like you're really listening and hearing what the other person is saying without judgment. Just getting curious about the people that you're introducing yourself to. And being mindful of how, if it's a business event, because we've attended so many of those, how you'd be able to support their business by connecting them with your database or the right people, especially if it's an aligned cause. It just makes it so much easier, right? Like you genuinely see that this person you're speaking to is up to something amazing in the world. If you're a super connector, you're going to want to help facilitate that. So I think that would be important. And then
I want to mention something about the concept of mirroring.
Oh, sure.
So sometimes the concept of mirroring, okay, number one, to explain what that is you are simply copying the person who you're talking to. So if they're, let's just say if they're really nervous and they talk like really softly and slowly, then you dial down your speed of words because if you're talking fast and you're overwhelming the conversation and you're like taking over, that may not allow that other person to come out to maybe they're a little bit overwhelmed by you and really dialing it down to like their level. But I also want to be mindful that you also want to be yourself too. So I want to make it clear that you may not connect with every single person. They're not.
That's okay.
That is okay. That is okay that you're not connecting with the 50 people in the room. You know, and I want to say, I want to say this, that there was some New Yorkers in the
at
retreat.
your event. Okay.
Man, the way they talk and
East Coast is very different sometimes.
Not just the accents. Okay, that's cool that there's an accent because I'm sure I have an accent to them, but the way they like interact and they talk on top of each
like
other.
More abrupt, right?
Very abrupt. And it's like they talk on top of each other without even really listening to like themselves, how they talk. And even they would finish, they would start their sentence before that person finishes. It actually like really irritated me. I'll be honest.
So that's okay that you felt that way because that's not how it's not resonant with how you interact with people. And I would say if we're going super intellectual here, like I don't know the answer to it, but that probably is a product of their environment in a fast-paced place
city?
Such as, yes, New York. It's very fast-paced there. You've visited there before too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been
And
a while, but
while I appreciate New York, it's not on my current list right now just because I'm more interested in going into nature. But yeah, that's very interesting observation. Did you connect well with them in the end? Or
you know what? I want to say I steered further away from them during the retreat. I was nice, but I didn't
feel a
engage
connection
further with them. And I think, you know, the funny thing is that they're very spiritual, they're very holistic, but they're just so, their pace was so different. And I want to say I'm from the East Coast. Like I lived in the East Coast.
True.
I was fast paced.
I feel like you're more LA though.
Like, yes, internally I am more LA, but I understand the fast paced style, I guess, you know, for lack of better words, but it's just something. I was in a pool and they were talking and I was like, I have to get out of here. It's not helping me
and that's okay.
me being like super centered the moment. Like, okay, we were putting mud on our bodies and then we were supposed to stand there for like 10 minutes, let it wait to dry. And then we had to do so take it off, shower, do the hot plunge and the cold plunge.
Love it.
To me, it requires processing, requires patience, it requires mindfulness and like maybe even reflection of like what's happening earlier in the day and what's going to happen after. But but during the moment when they're also sharing the mud experience and the pool at the same time, it was really overwhelming for me and overtaking the thoughts in my mind.
But I think this is a perfect example, to your point, of the fact that you don't need to connect with everybody you're not resonating with.
Yeah.
So there's going to be people that you're naturally more aligned to or attuned to, and other people, they're probably still really great people.
Yes.
And maybe they're not your current people.
Yeah. And so maybe the mirroring is perfect in a interview setting or in a setting where there's like really high intentions. But in that moment for me, I just, it was okay that I didn't need to get to know them more.
Yeah, I
but
think
they're
that's okay.
Fantastic people. I'll have to add that.
Yeah, for sure. What about, so if we're talking about maximizing these networking opportunities, we talked about the pre-event, right? The mindset going into the event, the during the event, right? Like how is that being executed? What about after? Do we have a tip for after the event's wrapped up and you've made your connections? How can you further maximize that networking opportunity?
Okay, so before we go into the follow-ups and the after processing on everybody that you've met is
Post-networking.
during the event, the best way to collect names, number one, how do we remember names, right? So you're shaking your hand or giving them a hug and you're looking at them in the eye. I like to connect them with like a verb or like another noun or adverb. So let's just say we're gonna
say you met me. What would you?
So I'd
be honest.
Hi, Tony, and
Hi,
then
Jenny.
in my head I would be like talking Tony, okay? Or I would say tenacious Tony.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, so like something that describes you, I would just double the letter of your
That
first.
is very interesting, and I love that tip. I've never actually used that before.
Okay.
I might start.
Okay, yep.
Maybe mine's not as nice. No, it's nice. It's nice. Like, when they give you their card, I'll write something that I observed about the person directly on the card or something about the conversation that resonated so I would remember.
I know where you got that from. Because you work
Where?
in pre-sale.
Yes.
We were
Forgot
so
about
used to writing on registered cards.
True.
So same thing. I would do the same thing. Okay. Wore yellow raincoat. Brought in a dog, Molly.
Or likes education or something.
Yeah, something that they mentioned or something that they're wearing. Maybe they brought in their grandmother and it was something that will help me go back to the follow-up phone call. Be like, oh, you know what? I really enjoyed meeting your dog when you came through. And then so connect in that sense.
I totally
before
forgot.
getting into the real conversation of why you're calling.
For sure,
right?
sure.
So that's good. You're writing notes on the business card. Maybe you're even, okay, here's another tip. You know how you're like, one of the many things that we'd probably do is, okay, I'm going to get your phone number. I'm going to text you. Okay. So
say something memorable about the conversation in the text.
Yeah. So instead of saying, so Tony, can I get your phone number?
Sure.
So then you're entering your phone number into my phone. And then I'm automatically going to text you so that you have my number. I'll be like, hey, this is Jenny. And we discussed blah, blah, blah. We discussed something about how to cook a turkey. So then that way you remember
I would totally
the conversation,
remember you.
right?
Yes.
Or if you put your name and number into my phone, there's a note section or there's a description.
Oh, in the contact section.
Yes.
Yes. I use that
for
too.
me, like I'll put volleyball, like where I met them at volleyball, or in the note section, I'll be like, okay, referred by so and so, right? So that's how I would remember.
I just thought of something.
Yeah.
I'm going to admit this on the podcast. You guys might judge me for it. Do you ever put in your phone, if it's someone that you have exchanged numbers with, but you really don't want to talk to ever, do not contact?
No.
I've done that.
Okay.
I just did that last week.
Oh.
Does that make me a bad person? I was like, don't call this person by accident. But I have the number saved because if they're calling me, I don't want to pick it up.
You don't want to pick up? Oh, okay.
No. Anyhow.
What made you not want to, like, so you got your exchange numbers. And you didn't want to like say anything like right on the spot, I guess.
It was no, it wasn't that. It wasn't that from like a judgmental standpoint. It was like I connected with this person at a business event. This is actually what happened. And then over time, I came to see that in their current reality, they're not being authentic.
Oh, okay.
And so for me, my choice would be not to refer them business. It doesn't mean actually, and let's be a little bit more clear, because let's say this person was going to reach out at a later date and there was an actual purpose or there was accountability for something. It doesn't mean I would write them off entirely, but at this current time, if they're not going to be aware of those things, then I don't want to risk ever referring a client to them.
Okay. So you're just preparing for the potential conversation
Yes.
or encounter. That's fair.
I don't know if it is, but that's something that I did.
Fair. Thank you.
You're welcome.
To know that
the post
you're
follow-up.
human. Okay.
Yeah, I'm human. Yeah. The post follow-up.
Yeah. So again, going back to the CRM, I know that you just never know where this relationship will go, who they know, what they're going to, how they're going to service you in whatever capacity. Put them into your CRM, put them into your phone. Also text them maybe the night of or the day after. It was so nice to meet you. You know, you gave me some great insight, or, you know, hopefully you resolve whatever situation you're in, or what a beautiful story that you shared with me. I really hope things go well with you for the rest of the year. So something where it's just very thoughtful, and that you show that you were listening to them.
Yeah, that's perfect. Perfectly said, Jenny. Lastly, I would say, especially for the people that you've exchanged the contact with, you've thanked them for the conversation, just showing appreciation and staying in contact in the future. Because as you say, you never know where things could end up. So it's allowing that possibility in the relationship to be created. You know, sometimes at these networking events, you're meeting so many people, and maybe you did feel as though, oh, okay, maybe there was 3 people in that 50-person event that I really was interested in hearing more about what they're up to or what they're creating. If you've sent the initial follow-up text or email, or however you've wanted to do it, that's fine. Let it sink in a bit, and then re-follow up later when you guys have, you know, you're centered, you have time to grant a meeting or something, just to see where it would lead.
I want to also add, so a lot of agents are coming up to me because they're not used to, like they had a network of friends, maybe small, large, and then their life happens, right? And so they get busy with their family, their kids, and then now they feel awkward reaching out all of a sudden after so many years of not talking. So their question to me often is, how do I re-engage with them after so long of not talking to them? I want to get to the point, but I also don't want to force them to, like, I guess, expose the fact that the reason why I'm reaching out is because I'm a realtor.
So that's what I was going to answer your question, because my question was going to be, why are they reaching out in the first place? If you're reaching out to somebody, like this happens in our office all the time. I just had this conversation with Anoop. She had said, okay, well, I said, contact your Anoop, if she listens to our podcast. I said, contact everyone in your COI. And she said, well, what happens? I haven't kept in touch with everyone. Right. Like, I don't want to contact them. I said, well, it's not about you. It's about them. So if you come from that standpoint of taking a genuine interest, the conversation is a natural conversation. It's like, hey, Jenny, oh my gosh, we haven't spoken in so long. I hope you don't mind that I'm reaching out. Like, genuinely, how have you been? Yeah. What kinds of things are you working on? If now's not a great time, I would love to connect. Could you give me a call back or let me know when we could meet up?
Yeah.
So when it comes from there, and it's, again, guys, not about you. It's about them. These things organically and naturally happen. The natural way that conversation will happen is they're going to reciprocate. A normal person will reciprocate and say, hey, by the way, Tony, what are you up to? Oh, I'm still in real estate. How's that going? Do you know what I mean? It's just like real, authentic communication.
I often say to my agents, just be honest of what you're actually meeting for.
And that is acceptable as well.
That is super acceptable. And at the end of the day, you can always just say, well, if you have any friends or families that are interested or like want to know more about real estate, I am so happy to be of service to them because, well, you're marketing yourself. So what is the problem with that?
There's no problem with that. I mean, but we're both in sales, so we don't have a problem with that. There are some people with a problem.
I think some people come into the business not knowing that they are a salesperson as part of one of the hats that they wear. So they're so not used to advertising about themselves.
We should do an episode actually on that. The word salespeople. I feel, and I've heard in industry, that it has a lot of like negative connotations for people. So really, it's just bringing things up about yourself that you may or may not want to face.
Right. Exactly.
Do an
So you gotta
episode
look
on that.
more into that. So yeah, that's the episode, guys, about maximizing your networking to increase your net worth. It is so important to reconnect with people. Again, after the pandemic, we were so used to just doing things over Zoom and by texting and FaceTime that we probably lost a lot of that, the art of networking. And a lot of people also said they missed interacting and connecting with people. So this is your chance to do it, guys.
Yeah. Let us know what kind of results you have and what kind of meaningful communications you have with new people.
And again, if you want to give us the feedback, be sure to text us, DM us, screenshot the episode that you're listening to, and put your answer right there and make sure you tag us.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.